This is the Flex Network. Flex on everybody.
Oh, yes, everybody. This is the Flex Network back again for another week where we just smash like Donkey Kong on all you mothers. Back again with one Alan Seslowsky. You can find him at ALANSES Low Sky. Alan Seslowsky also writes a column, $0. Go ahead, Seslowsky, because I think that's didn't you recently, there was some nice presence on your $0 bidding column recently. Go ahead, Seslowsky. I'll let you take it over.
You actually did a nice job, but $0 bidding is a column that I do every week for Roster Watch, where we talk about players that you could pick up after your waiver wire runs for your season-long leagues, and often that's where the money's made. That's where you could pick up Jeff Wilson. That's where you could pick up Gio Bernard after the waiver wire runs and news breaks. And then recently, the column was syndicated over to Rotoballer. So now Rotoballer picked it up, and they are using that column as part of their weekly content. So that was like an awesome thing. So you could find that $0 bidding on both Roster Watch and on Rotoballer now.
And of course, here's Alex Dunlap from Roster Watch himself. Boys, yes, Alex, what's up, brother? We are here Saturday night, ready to flex on all of our competition. Follow Roster Watch. Everybody should. Everybody in the entire industry. If not, you are just a swarthy individual, one that would lay in bed with the trash man.
And that's how our podcast came about. I mean, we were both fans of their show, I mean, we are a baby birth from the Roster Watch podcast.
We are suckling at the teats of the upper in the class. Yes, Seslowsky, that is us. Now, here's what I want to say a little bit, Seslowsky, because I know that you also, work with our friend the Geek at DFS Army. But let's talk about that for a second. Last year, Bobby won the $1 million. The Millie Maker Bobby won the $1 million last year. He came on. We had him on the show. It was great. It was great. What happened last week, Seslowsky?
Yeah, no, just for those who are watching for the first time, a friend of the podcast, Bobby Wow, who's been on this podcast. Alex said, don't lay in the bed with the trash man. Absolutely
never lay in the bed with the trash.
Yeah, but a friend of the podcast, Bobby Wow, who is a member of DFS Army, won the $1 million last year with Daniel Jones as his quarterback. All right, fine, won it. Amazing, great, once-in-a-lifetime thing. No. Twice in a lifetime. He won the $1 million maker the week before last. Again, he split it with someone else, took home $550,000. And my favorite thing was that someone just said, yeah, you just got lucky. And he goes, the Geek said, which time, the first or the second time?
Boom, boom. And then dropped the mic and then ran out of here. And you know what I did, Seslowsky? I DM'd him. I said, hey, there is some opportunities to have sponsorships on the Flex Network. Okay. Yes, we love Bobby. We love DFS Army. We love Roster Watch here.
First
but
on our
Seslowsky, let me tell you what I don't love is drafting these RBs high in Dynasty and watching the season that has laid forth at our feet this year, Seslowsky. Let me tell you something. You're on the hot seat here. Okay, you had Swift number one.
Dobbins and Swift.
You didn't have Dobbins. You had Swift. Don't Swift even lie about it.
Swift 1's, Dobbins 2. I had James. No, I was going to say I had James Robinson 3, but obviously I didn't. No, I had and then I had I actually originally before the draft I had Dylan at 3, but I mean it's still only year one. I know what you're going to say. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who most had at 1, we had about 1, 2, or 3. But I still think Dobbins and Swift. I believe in those guys. Matt Patricia should be gone next year. I could see DeAndre Swift taking total control of that. And, listen, what happens in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the regular season is going to really shape what drafts look like next year. Let's not form judgment yet, but we can make some guesses based on what we've seen. I still fully believe in DeAndre Swift. I still fully believe in J.K. Dobbins. Jonathan Taylor, who I'm not so sure. We'll see. And obviously Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's concerning, isn't it?
Well, are you trying to tell me that your dynasty rankings for RBs in this draft class has allowed Taylor to fall to what, RB4 in this class, it seems like?
I think deeper than that. If we were redrafting today, which we often like to say, I think James Robinson would go ahead of him. I think Antonio Gibson would go ahead of him. I know things change quickly, but remember, running backs are a 3-year window. I mean, Todd Gurley 2 years ago was the ultimate fantasy asset. He is nowhere to be found. I mean, he's kind of like, hey, great, I got Todd Gurley. I'm just counting down the minutes until he's not relevant anymore. Running backs, okay. How about this? I'm going to give you a good stat here that I heard today.
Yes.
Running backs that finish as an RB1 in fantasy football, what percentage of those running backs finish as an RB1 a second year?
Total, ever in their career?
Again in their career, finish again as an RB1 again.
Oh, sheesh.
This is going to knock your socks over.
My socks over, not off, just over. Are they still
over
on the ankle?
and off?
Oh, okay. Got you on the socks. I'm going to say 0%. I mean, you're going to hit me.
That's not true because, Zeke has finished as an RB1 how many times? Christian McCaffrey's done it twice. Dalvin Cook.
10%.
It's 5%. So
5%.
5% of RBs that finish as an RB1 in fantasy do it again in their career.
So why do we have so much love for them?
Because they win championships right away. They're the cocaine. They're the quick fix. They're the crystal meth of fantasy football.
We should coin that. young RBs are the crystal meth of fantasy football. Yes, but you heard it here first.
Right, but they don't last long. I mean, think about DK Metcalf, your guy. AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, these guys are going to last 5, 6, 7 years, right? They're going to be productive top 13, 14, top 12 wide receivers.
Well, let's talk about the receivers in this class. I mean, CD Lamb. He's being talked about in that top 5 dynasty wide receiver column, Seslowsky. Now, I agree. I mean, look at what he was able to do this year. You have to assume that one of those upper tier guys that you would call upper echelon in comparison to him is going to be off that team next year. One of them, Dak's coming back.
And by the way, just to bring home the point, like, look at someone like Joe Mixon. His highest finish was like RB13. And we love Joe Mixon. We like him, but we know it's been a roller coaster ride. That's my point, is the guys are more likely to be Joe Mixon than they are to be Dalvin Cook.
Well, Joe Mixon is on the younger side.
He's 24.
Yeah, he's on the younger side. He's still got some years to give us some real solid production.
And don't you like what Cincinnati's doing there? Don't you like it? Like, aren't you excited about all those players next year?
I am so excited. I am just so excited. Burrow is likely not to be the QB1 coming out of this class. He was almost a definitive QB1 coming out of this class, and now you look at him as what? QB2. He's probably QB2. Two is not gonna. Come on, Tua.
Let's not bash Burrow. This is just excitement about the whole QB class as a whole here. I think that this is going to go down possibly as one of the best QB classes ever, versus the Baker Mayfield Sam Darnold class, which is going to go down as a rough shot for the top few QBs. So, but yeah, I mean, it's looking good, right? I mean, you're optimistic about Tua.
Well, I am. The guy that I'm the real most optimistic about is T. Higgins. It's like, geez, T. Higgins, and I talk about this in our dynasty draft, with the geek. I completely chose Michael Pittman over T. Higgins, which I'm sure wasn't out of left field to do so. And after this last Thursday night game, man, you see the potential that can be there, but you are just on fire. Your hair is on fire, Seslowsky. If you drafted T. Higgins somewhere in the second round this year, I mean, wouldn't you rather take T. Higgins over? I mean, geez, this is kind of trashy. Probably not this way, but I would definitely not like to have overdrafted CEH rather than kind of take T. Higgins where you got him, But I would have, loved to get T. Higgins at all last year. Wasn't really there. Would have loved to have been there. What about Mims? Mims is looking good out there. Not a lot of option, but Trevor Lawrence is number one wide receiver next year, says Seslowsky. What about Mims?
Yeah, as a lifelong Jets fan, I'm not going to call Trevor Lawrence a Jet until he's actually signed the piece of paper that says he's going to be Jet, because not only do the Jaguars have the tiebreaker should they both have one win, it's getting him to commit to playing in professional football. It's getting him to sign and getting him to be on the field. But let's say for assumption, let's assume for a minute that Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback of the Jets. Yeah, I mean, he'll be Mims will be one of those very popular sophomore breakout guys for the following year. There's no doubt about it. I mean, our guys here at Roster Watch, the trash bin was very early to identify Denzel Mims as a player that nobody was talking about as a top 60 player in the NFL draft. So that's interesting as well. So yeah, no, I think Denzel Mims, you're correct to identify him as a very interesting player in 21 and beyond.
Well, the Senior Bowl, says Lowski. Let's talk about our boys at Roster Watch. Okay, when they went to the Senior Bowl this most recent year, who did they see balling out? Guys that everybody was shitting on, like Chase Claypool. Okay, had a stellar game there. Yes, has calmed down a little bit, but you see the upside. Okay, those guys were not drafted in the first round. A lot of guys were not looked at. So, by
the way, I follow Chase Claypool on TikTok. He is unbelievable on TikTok. Unbelievable.
You just referenced TikTok, says Lowski?
Oh yeah. I'm
is
saying
that a thing still, or?
Oh, it is a thing. It's the most trafficked social media. Okay, Facebook is still first and foremost the most trafficked social media, believe it or not. But yeah, TikTok is unbelievable. It's. I know people goof on TikTok and the whole Trump thing and ban, but the most creative content is on TikTok. Like I love. Now it's not just pretty women dancing, which is a very good part of it, by the way, very good part of it, but it is so creative. There's fantasy sports on TikTok. There's good comedy on TikTok. And Chase Claypool is one of the better sports figures that I've seen. Juju is on there too. So I don't know. I highly recommend, if you don't have a TikTok account, I know that it's Chinese people are stealing all your data and everything else. But TikTok is highly entertaining, and Chase Claypool has an amazing TikTok account.
Let's talk about the middle of the first round wide receivers. Okay, Judy has been very hard to deal with this year, but last week showed what he can do. Okay, let's first talk about Jerry Jeudy, says Lowski. Do you like him long term? Do you think he's better suited as a wide receiver too? Or is it kind of like a Justin Jefferson thing where you want to slide him to the outside and play him as a one, and when you do, you'll get the most production out of it?
All right, so a couple weeks ago, Jerry Jeudy was not getting much production. And from what I understand, I've heard, I listen to a couple Denver Broncos podcasts. I mean, that's, now that I'm not, that I'm home a lot, I'm listening to a lot of beat writer podcasts. And they were, and somebody had told, do you know Cecil Lammey? He's got a podcast on Football Guys. He was talking about it inside the building there of the Denver Broncos, that they were seeing Jeudy open on film. And Jerry Jeudy was not getting the ball. Drew Lock was scanning one side of the field and firing the ball. They told him, you need to look for Jerry Jeudy. So what's happened over the last 2 weeks, Flex Matt?
Production.
Not only that, we got 10 targets and 14 targets the last 2 weeks. Double-digit targets both weeks. I think that at the very baseline, we're talking about 8 targets a game the rest of the season. I love Jerry Jeudy. If we were redrafting today, Jerry Jeudy would be a top 4 dynasty rookie pick, and I wouldn't even mind taking him at 2.
Geez, says Lowski, that might be a little rich for even my blood. Let's
who would you take? Who would you take
in a top 4?
Yeah, who would you take in a dynasty?
I still think that the running backs have a lot more value. I mean, this year, especially, yes, Le'Veon Bell.
Jerry Jeudy just turned 21.
No, I get it. I would rather, but you're right. You're totally right. I mean, you're so right. To see these guys dominate on the offensive side of the ball at such a young age, you really have to start putting them ahead of some of these middle, these middle-aged, you can almost say that, but geez, like I'm middle-aged, right? I mean, let's hope. What about the potential next Odell Beckham-esque type player in Jalen
Ooh,
Reagor?
okay. I
Okay.
didn't, when you said Odell Beckham, I was thinking about Brandon Ayuk. Okay. All right. Jalen
No,
Reagor.
I don't like Ayuk in that type of play because I don't think he has the dynamism. Is that right?
No,
I
100%
think
right. The
so.
dynamism.
I mean, I like Ayuk with dynamism in backfield carries. I like that. My problem is they have two receivers on that offense to do the same exact thing. So I don't think you could ever get that flashiness coming from Ayuk, where Jalen Reagor really stands as the wide receiver one on that offense when they're going to transition to giving him the ball completely. So once he gets on the field after these little ticky-tack things, I expect him to be as explosive as he can be, and that's Odell.
Do you get annoyed when you listen to Sirius Radio and people call him Jalen Reagor?
I get annoyed.
I get annoyed too.
I get annoyed. It's yes, and Julian Edelman. That's a
Well,
callback.
that's fun. That's funny. We like that. That's kind of funny. But like, when they say Matt Breida instead of Matt Breida.
Is that Mans? This sounds like
I
something
don't know.
Mans would do.
I don't listen to man, but like, yes. I mean, anyway, long short is, the reason I compared Ayuk to Odell was the short catch and go. The good the yards after the catch, that type of stuff. But yeah, Jalen, you asked about Jalen Reagor, like Reagor. I said it now. Jalen Reagor. I don't know. Like, we haven't seen it yet, right? I mean, he hasn't been healthy, but sure, it looked pretty good last week. I'm interested. I mean, if you're believing in him, this is the time to buy him. He just actually was traded on the trade deadline for a first round dynasty pick, which is getting your money. Well, it's just basically getting your money back, right? If you drafted him and you're not sure, you want your money back, you could still get it.
Yes, but Odell, week 6, week 7, what this guy needs is a one-handed catch while he's being held in the, you know what I mean? And then boom, he's a superstar and he just turns around to being, something that is, but here's what I would like to say, Seslowsky. We just keep talking about wide receivers. Let's talk about this guy, Cam Akers. Where's he on the back of a milk carton? What do you think about Cam Akers? Seslowsky's healthy. I mean, the guy, what is it?
Our guy Flex Shane liked him a lot. I was not in on Cam Akers, and I thought reasonably he could be fine, but I had Dylan ahead of him. I still think, I don't love Cam Akers. I think that and how can you in that situation? Like, Sean McVay basically is going to use a 3 running back approach this year. Next year, who knows? It could be 2 running back approach. Cam Akers is going to be fine. I mean, his college tape was good. He had the bad offensive line at Florida State. This year, you want to see it right away from a running back, right? Isn't that what you want to do? You're going to be more patient with wide receivers. You're going to be a little bit more patient with tight ends. With running backs, I want to see it this year. I want to see what I paid for right away, because the production is always best in the beginning. Now, again, if they don't get opportunity, you always talk about opportunity and how great and how important that is in fantasy. Fine, we can forgive that. But when we see a guy like Jonathan Taylor running into the backs of offensive linemen, when we see Cam Akers get on the field and just not, look dynamic, that's a concern. I mean, if we were to redraft Dynasty, wouldn't you rather have James Robinson and Antonio Gibson ahead of Cam Akers? I mean, it's not even a question, right?
Alex Dunlap, roster watch here, says if they bite as dogs, they usually bite as pups.
There you go. See,
that is the perfect explanation of what the hell is going on here.
Oh, I mean, honestly, that is that is exactly the thought right there. I mean, what a great way to put it. I'm actually going to use that. I'll give Alex credit, but that is it.
Of course, we will give Alex. That's about it, Alex. Okay, no more credit on no. I'm just. But I mean, so what do you do? Do you sell him off for what you can get at this point, or come on, Seslowsky?
No, because it's a position of opportunity, and Darrell Henderson, and that's a good offense, the Rams. So should he go down He'll have weeks. Okay, you paid a fifth overall pick for Cam Akers, right? You probably should have taken CD Lamb there. It happened to me in one league. I fell for it. I got banana in the tailpipe. That's our roster watch friends. They say that all the time. That's from the movie 48 Hours. But you have them. You can't sell them. We're going to sell them for a second round pick. You have a good running back in a bad spot. But if there's injury strikes, there's that one injury away. That's your guy.
So a guy we seem to have been almost bypassing here. Don't know why, but like I said, Justin Jefferson. Okay. This guy is clearly in line for either by the tail end of this year and or running into next year as the true wide receiver one on that offense. Okay. I understand that Thielen works in that role. I understand, but the guy's old. Kirk Cousins is, yeah. So why not? Go ahead.
You know what it is with the Minnesota Vikings? The game plan is to hand it off to Dalvin Cook right away. It's not like, hey, let's see what happens with the running back. They start with the running back. And we know that team's philosophy is run the ball first. Like in an ideal game plan, Kirk Cousins for that team is throwing the ball 19 times. So what's really left to go around? You're going to need, Jefferson. We're excited about Justin Jefferson. We like him, right? Now Thielen, couple good weeks, couple bad weeks. He is getting older. But here's what's good about that team. There's no third receiver. The tight end situation has not been established, so to speak. So it's a narrow tree. So even though it's 19 passes, it's 22 passes, at least we know who those passes are going to. There should be 8 and 8, right? 8 to Jefferson, 8 to Thielen.
And then some Irv Smith touchdowns to win your fantasy weeks.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. If there's not going to be a high volume passing, at least it's a narrow tree. Like look at the opposite of that is Tampa Bay, right? There's 5 viable targets. There's Godwin, there's Evans, there's Antonio Brown. Now you have any one of those types.
You have Ronald Jones, you've got Leonard Fournette.
Well, that's the opposite, and that's my point. Like they need 35, 45 passes to support that core, whereas we don't need that many passes to support the Minnesota Viking guys. So where are you on Jefferson?
Well, I'm high, and that's a thing. A lot of people in the dynasty leagues I'm playing in, I see Justin Jefferson on the block, and I'm happy about it. I'm like, oh, great! Now I can step in. I can step into the office. I can sniff around him because the opportunity is there. And yes, you say running first offense.
Right, well,
first offense. Hold on.
Well, let me ask you this: would you trade Tyler Lockett for Justin Jefferson in a dynasty league?
In a heartbeat.
Okay.
In a heartbeat. Are you kidding me? Just on age alone. But that's what I'm trying to say. That's the same offense. That is the same offense. Yes, it runs through the running back. Yes, it runs through the run game. Now it's switched a little bit over this year and Russ is cooking, but imagine if it gets that same juice in Minnesota. If that same juice is flowing through Minnesota, tell me that Justin Jefferson couldn't DK Metcalf. I mean, I know he's not as big as DK, but I feel like he's a better receiver than DK. And I'm not talking about muscling. I get it. DK's the full package. He's a Julio Jones, but you always get that secondary type guy that people will say, oh, he's better. I guess you can argue it, but I like Justin Jefferson. I'm a big fan of him. I'm buying him everywhere that we can go. Here's another guy that's fallen, Josh Kelly. Okay, at the beginning of the season, everybody was, just so high. And now it seems like, man, he's losing touches to Kalen Garbage. Kalen Garbage is losing touches to Kalen Garbage. What's going on here, Seslowsky?
Yeah, Anthony Lynn, he's a former running back, the coach of the Chargers. He's a running back guy. So if anyone is a running back, he's in love with you. If you even just show up, and he's hasn't decided on a running back. So here's the thing: you and I were both pretty high on Austin Eckler. I know some in the fantasy community were rightfully skeptical of him because he hadn't done it over multiple years. But I think once Justin Herbert got in there, we were right. Austin Eckler was going to be the guy, but he's out. He's gone for a while.
He's coming back.
Sure,
per his
maybe.
TikTok videos.
Very
Just
good.
joking on
Very
TikTok.
good.
Thank you.
But right. I mean, Josh Kelly's a rookie. I mean, again, another guy that Roster Watch was pretty high on.
Senior Bowl
Right.
favorite.
And look, they had Tremaine Pope, the former Seattle Seahawk, come in,
Who?
and Pope a couple weeks ago got production for that team. I think that they haven't settled on a running back. I would still place my bet on Kelly. I think that he's good enough. But you're right. Kalen Garbage got the production last week. They reactivated him. They brought him back up from the practice squad this week. I mean, you're not going to know who Justin Jackson before he did the on the first play of the game got hurt. He was doing pretty well for a few weeks. I don't think Anthony Lynn, a running backs coach, is going to run the ball. And I think you're not going to be able to predict which one of those guys is going to go off until Austin Eckler comes back. Josh Kelly, again, he probably was appropriately priced as a third-round rookie pick. He had a good start. If you sold him then for a late first and early second-round rookie pick, if we're talking about dynasty, kudos to you. He's going to be picked up. He's one of these dropped and picked up guys. We'll see how his career goes. I'm not so sure.
Seslowsky, to put a bow on this, okay, I want your vibes on one guy, and then I'm going to tell you a guy that I like as just a sneak. Let's see what this guy can be. But I've got my stake on one guy as a receiver. But Keyshawn Vaughn, Seslowsky, okay, I understand this whole lots of other stuff. I get it. Where would you sit right now on Keyshawn Vaughn? Are you buying him at all? Because it seems like you can get him for a bag of peanuts, really. I mean, some of the guys that drafted him are in the high first round, early second round. So do they want to get out? Do they want to snake out of it as early as they can? I would say yes, but are you buying?
I'm not buying. I mean, the team's actions and the evaluation. And in fact, our guy Byron at Roster Watch was very high on Keyshawn Vaughn. And when Byron says something, I trust it. So he's on the ground. He's looking at these guys. He thought, now he was a little bit older, Keyshawn Vaughn, when he came out. He's like a 23 going on 24. So again, as a 2-3 year player, no problem, but he's got to get opportunity. What has the team done? They've committed to Ronald Jones. They've gone back to Leonard Fournette. They signed him. Keyshawn Vaughn could have, I mean, for redraft, forget it. I mean, he's cut. But for dynasty, I mean, if you can get him cheap, sure, it's just another guy to add. But I mean, if we redrafted today, he wouldn't go in the first 3 rounds of our dynasty leagues that you and I play in. I mean, nobody would take him, right? I mean, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't shown anything. It could be, and we could be totally mistaken, but I don't see a situation where he even has an opportunity to produce anytime next year either.
So speaking about opportunity, I completely popped into my mind my other guy. I love these guys, but again, this class of wide receivers, man, I mean, I understand Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, etc. Okay, I understand that class, but when you talk about just raw production out of this rookie class, it's fantastic. Darnell Mooney, okay. If Chicago could just get a good quarterback, imagine what that offense could really look like. What about Gabriel Davis shooting up the boards, a late, I mean, geez, 4th round pick. Okay. You were hot on Tyler Johnson, just not on Gabe Davis, but look at him now. I mean, that guy in Buffalo's offense, it looks good. Next year, let's get it a little more refined. Let's carve out Steph Diggs' role and what they're really going to do with him. Seems like they're doing everything with him, but I'd like to see him kind of fall into this exact role.
I was not a Tyler Johnson guy. I didn't know, but Gabriel Davis, yeah, he looked good to me. I agree with you there. You were asking about what players from a wide receiver perspective or any position that look good for the future for me.
I was just talking about Gabe Davis and Darnell Mooney. I think both of them for late round guys.
That's what it was. Mooney's like this year's Darius Slayton, right? Like the 5th round or 4th, whatever round he was drafted in receiver. That and it's funny. It's Chicago fans want Mitch Trubisky to come back if he was healthy, and they think that he would be better off. That the team would be better off with him. In fact, Chicago fans, did you see the T-shirts that they're wearing? It says "Mitch, please."
I love the shirts.
Yeah, Mitch, please. I thought that was clever. Yeah, I agree with you that it would be and even Anthony Miller, who, Golden Sun, right? Roster watch, one of their favorite guys. He's a good player. He would be rocking and rolling had they have a good quarterback too. I'm shocked that they didn't even attempt to sign Cam Newton, Andy Dalton, any of these guys. They traded a 4th-round pick, Chicago, to get BDN. It's unbelievable that some of these decisions that the teams make.
Well, look at this, Seslowsky. Just tell me what the fucking point was, Chicago. Why do you want to trade for here's the thing. Okay, maybe you don't believe in Mitch. Okay, let's say you don't. Okay, well, why go out and sign a veteran QB? What's your goal? To win games, to put you near the middle of the pack of the first round when you're trying to say, hey, this might not be our guy? Like, what are you doing? Now you were 5-0 at one point, I believe, or undefeated at one point. Forget if it's 4 or 5-0, but I mean, now what? Now you're just losing games, or you might win a couple, but in the end, you're going to sit, 15th overall pick when you could have just rolled with Trubisky, seen what happened, and who knows? I just don't get it in the front office there.
Yeah, you're going to hear Sam Darnold's name floated on every trade rumor to every team that needs a quarterback, but Chicago, and again, I know he's a warm weather guy, Sam Darnold from his college football days, but I think one of the teams you're going to hear about over the offseason is Sam Darnold to Chicago. If I think that the consensus is he's a functional quarterback with optimism on his side that everyone wants to see in a competent non-Adam Gase system. So Chicago will be one of those teams that you're rumored to hear, hey, why don't you trade a 4th round, a 5th round pick? Whoever offers the 3rd is going to get them like that, especially if the Jets land the 1st overall pick. So
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that Rosen went for a 2nd. It's just like, here.
We thought that was low when it happened, right?
Yes, but hindsight 2020, says Lowski. Okay, as we get into some of our top flex plays of the week to end this podcast, we appreciate you sticking around. We appreciate everybody. But says Lowski, I've been working way too hard, way too fast. I really didn't come prepared with any guys. So here we go with Seslowski's top flex plays on the week, Seslowsky. I'll just tell you one. I'm just really happy that Mike Davis is on every one of my teams still. I will tell you that. Christian McCaffrey, I already expected not really to have great use of him week 1, although that was flipped on its head a little bit. But yes, injured and out. Everybody loves Mike Davis in DFS this week. Watch out. I don't know what would happen. It might happen, might not happen. Who knows? J.D. McKissick, hot this week. J.D. McKissick, Seslowsky said to you 3 weeks ago, watch out for J.D. McKissick. And now.
Remember that? We had.
Jeez.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, Seslowsky said, listen, J.D. McKissick, this is the guy. A couple weeks later, he's like, if he's not on your team, you're losing. Right. So Seslowsky, here we go. Drop another couple nuggets for us as we win our fantasy leagues this week, Seslowsky. Yes.
You know me. I don't like to be too captain obvious, but this is more for week 11. But if Corey Davis is sitting out there on your waiver wire, and I'll give you one, I'll give you a couple for this week too. But there's no reason. I mean, he had the bagel, he had the 0 in week 9. Obviously, we all heard about that he was going through a personal tragedy, but he's come back strong. I mean, the last 3 weeks, other than week 9 to week 7, 8, and 10, in PPR leagues, he's gotten you 15, 27, and 12 fantasy points. So for some reason in your redraft league, if he's sitting out there, and again, I'll go a little deeper on my next 2, but I want you to pick up Corey Davis. I think he's going to play inspired. He's going to be playing for a contract, and he's a good player. You could easily start him every week with confidence. And again, I know we're going wide net here. Corey Davis he's in the high 30% owned, so there's a chance he's out there. And I'll go a little deeper, but that's the guy I want you to pick up and play for week 11.
Seslowsky, tell me why Wayne Gallman shouldn't be in everybody's starting rosters, at least for the next couple weeks as things shake out. But Wayne Gallman seems to be getting use. He's over 50% snap share in 2 of the last 3 games, Seslowsky. He's getting at least over 10 touches, but he had 68 yards last week and a touchdown while catching one pass only, but he was targeted out the backfield. Yes, some middling defenses that he's coming up against, plus a bye. But Wayne Gallman, to me, seems like a guy that you can throw in your flex right now and just kind of throw up a prayer. In COVID, this is going to be listed as the COVID year. Okay, so you got guys out there that some guys you never heard before that you're throwing in your lineup, Seslowsky. So yes, I like Wayne Gallman this week.
No, I
Hit
love
me
that.
again, Seslowsky.
No, I think Wayne Gallman's a great pick. I mean, if you get 58 yards and a touchdown, I mean, you're a top 13, 14 running back, right? I mean,
At least.
yeah. No, that's so. How deep do you want to go here? I mean, we're talking about our 12-team leagues. We're talking about
Seslowsky, stop. Whenever the question is how deep, the deepest.
The deepest we can go.
The deepest
Yeah, I mean,
possible.
Okay. I mean, we always have some obvious guys. I mean, like obviously if Gio Bernard's out there, we know that Joe Mixon's out this week. We know you want to start him, but you hit on a player that I think is interesting, and I don't think he's going to be picked up in a lot of leagues. I really like Kalen Ballage as a, like, what the hell? Let me throw him in my flex spot, see what happens. He produced last week, right? The only reason they sent the Chargers sent him back to the practice squad after the game was because that's what the rules say. They say that if you're activated on a Monday night, you then need to go back to the practice squad, and then they can reactivate you at the end of the week. They did that. Justin Jackson's out. Austin Eckler's still out. They're gonna. I mean, this is Tua versus Herbert, part one of an epic career. They're gonna want to dump the ball off to Kalen Ballage. They're gonna want to hand the ball off to him. Sure, he's gonna get probably 12 carries, but I like him, man. I think that he could be a great flex play, and I'm sure he's out there in your waiver wire.
Can I be a chicken liver right here, Seslowsky?
Please do.
Duke Johnson, Seslowsky.
Oh, love that. Love that.
Love it, right? You just love Duke. You love to take a Duke on your opponent this week. Okay, that was an easy one, Seslowsky. What about Jakeem Grant, Seslowsky? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Parker's out. I mean, not Parker. Preston Williams is out, right?
Preston's out. Tua looked his way a lot last week. I wouldn't say a lot, but I mean, geez, give the guy a shot, throwing him in against. You got to score 28 points to beat the Chargers, it seems like, right? You got to to beat the Chargers, you need to score 28 points, it seems like. Okay. Yeah, Myles Gaskin out, right? So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to throw the ball over the field to it. You're going to hope your defense picks up the slack for you like it's done in the last couple of weeks, but you're going to throw to Jakeem Grant this week, Seslowsky. Book it. Last one, Seslowsky.
Yeah.
Real deep.
All right. So I'm going to go with the third receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay. So we know T. Higgins is going to get his 14 points. We know Tyler Boyd's going to do something, but either AJ Green or Auden Tate. I don't know which one it's going to be, but one of them.
Seslowsky is going to let you choose.
I'm going to let you choose.
Oh, dang.
Which one of those the wide receiver is going to get in the end zone this week? The tall, lanky guy that moves the change. It's going to be one of those guys. I don't know which one it is. Obviously, Auden Tate's available in your redraft league. Nobody has him. I mean, you just don't even have room for him. In your deep dynasty leagues, he might be rostered. And I'm just saying, if you're in wide receiver hell, which is, there's always Hunter Renfrow out there. There's always Jakeem Grant out there, like you said. There's always going to be Alshon Jeffrey can be picked up, But one of the Bengals' third wide receivers, it's going to be AJ Green or it's going to be Auden Tate. They're going to get in the end zone this week. They're going to give you 11 points.
Seslowsky, I'm going to tell you, I did absolutely no research. I was taking a look at last week's guys, top receivers, and one thing. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you something, Seslowsky. Of the last two games, okay, I'm going to stump you. I know I'm going to stump you. This is easy. Of the last two games, as a potential wide receiver 3 on his team that nobody's ever heard of, with at least 75% snap share. Tell me who it is, Seslowsky. Number 3, last week scored 110 yards, Seslowsky. 110 yards. You don't even know the guy.
A wide receiver? What team?
I mean, you know the guy. I
What
can't tell you
team?
the team.
Just
I
tell
can't
me.
tell you the
I mean,
team.
this is a slow build. You want the audience to feel like they can guess it. Who's
Okay, how about this? On the same team, there's another guy who everybody knows, same last name.
Same last name. Well, what team is it?
The jeweler. You called him the jeweler pre-season.
I did. Me.
Cam Sims, wide receiver for the Washington football team. Last week, Seslowsky had a 75% snap share. He had 4 targets, caught 3 of them, but 110 yards. I mean, geez, this week against Detroit, you just never know. You never know, Seslowsky. You're a wide receiver hell.
The wrong Sims. The guy.
That's what I'm saying. That's a wrong Sims. You're on the wrong side of history with Cam Sims. But this week, he may show you something, Seslowsky. I am in love with all of our viewers. Thank you for so much here tonight as we flex on our week 10. Week 10. No, this is week 10, Seslowsky. We're in the mix. Seslowsky, if you started your seasons this year, week 8 was like the fulcrum. Right now in the Roster Watch Listener League, if we had just stopped the league at week 8, your boy would have been the champion. Your boy would have been the champion with the extra large peen. You know what I mean?
You were rooting for COVID.
I was rooting for COVID as I am now so that I can win my fantasy football leagues. Yes, Seslowsky, we can find you on TikTok primarily and Twitter and writing a roster watch column with DFS Army and the Flex Network. Find him at Alan Seslowsky on Twitter and TikTok, I think, at ALANSES Low Sky. Signing off, brother. What last say you?
No, that's it, man. I always enjoy seeing you on a Saturday night. I'm always enjoying competing with you in our fantasy leagues, and I am very excited to continue talking about fantasy football for the rest of the year. How lucky are we, right?
We are so lucky, Seslowsky. I am Flex Matt, and we co-comprise the Flex Network with our boy Flex Shane. And yes, thank you for tuning in. We are out.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah.